Have you ever painted a room the color you were absolutely certain about, and somehow it made everything worse? Not wrong exactly, just flat, lifeless. Like a room lost something instead of gaining it. You chose carefully, you looked at the swatch, you even tested it on a wall. And when it dried, and when the furniture went back, the room still didn't feel quite right. This is one of the most common things I see inside homes. Not bad taste, not bad furniture, color choices that are working against the space. I want to talk about this today because color is the most misunderstood design decision in homes. People treat it like decoration, and it's not. Color is emotional temperature of every room you walk into. It is the first thing your nervous system reads before you consciously register anything else, before the furniture, before the art, before the view. Research shows that your heart rate and cortisol level, your stress response, begins to shift seconds after entering a room. We're talking seconds, not minutes. Not after you sit down and look around. The color on the wall is already talking to your body before you even finish crossing the threshold. And that means color mistakes don't just look wrong, they feel wrong in your body. If you're new here, my name is Ariana Adireh Anderson. I am a founder of a READ group on the east side of metropolitan Seattle area. And a large part of my work is helping people understand why their home looks furnished but still doesn't feel right. In this video, I want to walk you through 5 color mistakes I see inside homes. Mistakes that undermine everything else that the homeowners has done right. The first one is the one I see most often. This is the one people feel most confined about. For over a decade, cool gray has been a defining choice for Americans' homes. You would have gray walls, gray base cabinets, gray undertone stone and tile. Gray was the safe and sophisticated choice. I understand why it happened. Gray felt clean, neutral, modern. It sold homes. But here is what no one told you about gray. Cool gray is emotionally inert. It doesn't warm the space, it doesn't ground the furniture, it doesn't make you feel calm or rested or welcome. The tension you feel when a beautiful room still doesn't feel like a home. This is what gray costs you. The answer has been sitting right in front of us for years, and that's warmth. The paint industry has been moving towards this direction for some time now. Benjamin Moore Color of the Year is Silhouettes, the deep chocolate brown with espresso and palm undertone. PPG chose warm mahogany. Dune Edward chose midnight garden, that rich muted green. A survey of nearly 500 interior designers conducted by First Bibs found that 33% of designers listed chocolate brown as their top choice for this year. That's nearly double what it was just in 4 years ago. Burgundy jumped from 7% to 21% in 1 year. The shift really isn't towards bold, it's towards warmth, towards depth, emotional groundedness. The difference between a room that feels expensive and a room that looks expensive is almost always the warmth. And that's the first mistake, choosing safe over warmth. Choosing the color that looks right on the screen over the color that feels right inside the room. The second mistake is related. It kills beautiful interiors. People believe that white is a simple choice. It's crisp, clean, timeless. It is not. There are hundreds of white on the market to choose from, and they are not remotely the same. Every white has the undertone. It could be blue undertone, green, pink undertone, yellow, or gray undertone. And the undertones interact with every single light source in the house. Your morning light, afternoon light, warm incandescents, even the cool LEDs. The white that looks clean and bright in a paint store can turn visibly blue and green inside a specific room. A white that looks perfectly neutral on a swatch can read purple under your light conditions. Most of the color consultation I get called for follow the same pattern. Client tested the swatch, they did everything right, and still repainted. And still we're not happy. The swatch on an empty wall tells you absolutely nothing. It doesn't account for your furniture, for your light at 7 p.m., or the room and how it will actually feel. One client has just finished a kitchen renovation. She chose warm marble countertops. She also chose a white for her walls. Looked perfect at a store, but the paint on her walls, it read cool and gray. And the marble started to look cool. A cool gray undertone turned that warm marble into something she did not want. If you're living with white that has never fully worked, look carefully and in different lights, in the day, in the morning, midday, evening when your lamps are on. If it reads differently on each, cooler or grayer or slightly blue, well, maybe that's the white undertone that isn't serving you. The change will likely fix more than just your walls alone. This year, for the first time, Pantone chose white as their color of the year. Their description, a quiet whisper in the noisy world. It's soft white with warm undertones, which tells you something. Even white now has to be intentional. Even white requires understanding what you're actually choosing and why. When I'm selecting white for a space, I'm reading the light, I'm reading the undertones of the stone, of wood, I'm reading the whole room, how it sits in the sun. I'm choosing the white that works with all of those elements. I work with white. A raw white doesn't look raw, it just makes everything else feels slightly off. Now, the third mistake is one that people invest significant amount of effort into, and a lot of times it works against them. That's the accent walls. I understand the impulse. You want color, you want depth, you want something more than a flat neutral on every surface. So you put the color on one wall and you leave the rest safe. Here is actually what's happening. The room gets divided. Your eye goes directly to the accent wall and stops. It doesn't travel throughout the whole space. It lands and it holds. Instead of color that lives inside the room, you create a focal point that competes with everything else. The furniture, the art, the architectural detail. Everything now exists in relationship to that accent wall, whether you intended for that or not. A truly well-designed room has color that belongs to the whole space, not one corner of it. Now, accent walls can work in some scenarios, maybe wallpaper behind a console, a textured finish inside a niche, color that anchors the architectural movement. But that's different than covering everything in one flat color and leaving everything too neutral. If you love color, really love it, consider committing to it fully, all four walls, maybe even a ceiling, sometimes even the trim. Color drenching, when done well, creates something completely different. A room feels enveloped, intimate, whole. A survey of interior designers found that 66 prefer a color drenching over an accent wall approach, not because it's trending, because it works emotionally. A room stops being a room with a colorful wall, it becomes a room with a feeling, a completely different experience. The fourth mistakes happen when people try to do too much. And I see it in home that certainly belong to people that are not afraid of color. Multiple colors across multiple rooms. A teal kitchen, a blush bathroom, a navy office, a warm terracotta dining room. Each one individually beautiful. But walking through the home feels like walking through a different flats. There's no visual thread connecting the space, no language that reads intentional, just a sequence of separate color decisions that were made on a separate isolated incident. Color that works in a home tells a story. There's a logic to it. Progression, relationship between spaces that feel natural, connected, even if you can't immediately articulate why. The why, I think, is about what is called color language. Every home should have its own color language, a palette that feels cohesive, whether you stand in a kitchen or in a hallway or a bedroom. It doesn't mean that every room needs to have the same color. It means that the color in your home understand each other. They share undertones, they share warmth or depth or brightness, they shift intensity, but stay emotionally related. When I work on homes, I'm not choosing an individual room color. I'm developing a language that works through the whole house. When speaking, the language defines each room. Quieter in the bedroom, more confident in the living room, and maybe an expensive look in the kitchen. Same language, different volume. Think about it this way. When you walk through a home that feels beautifully designed, not just decorated, but genuinely cohesive, you don't stop and admire an individual room color. You just feel it. The whole house has a mood. It has character, consistency that you can't always tell, but you feel. That feeling comes from color doing its job in the background, not performing, not competing, just connecting every space as you move through it, and it feels whole. The fifth mistake is the one that has the longest recovery time. By the time you realize it, you've already painted. Following the color trends without understanding whether it belongs to your specific home. Every year, paint companies release a color of the year. Designer publications name the palette that will define the season. Home and Garden runs an article on what's in and what's finally is over. And these colors are real trends. They reflect something genuinely that is happening and how the people want to feel inside their home. But a trend color is not automatically the right color for your home. A deep burgundy is beautiful in the right home, against the right material, in the right light, it might be stunning. In the wrong home, it makes every investment look like it was a mistake. Someone followed an exquisite trend perfectly. The right color, the right year, the right brand. The room still looked worse. Not because the color was wrong in theory, because the home was never set up to carry it. This is what I want people to understand. Color doesn't exist in isolation alone. It exists in relationship with your specific architecture, your specific lighting, your specific material, your specific orientation. A color that is warmth and grounding inside south-facing room with oak flooring can feel heavy, and opposite inside a north-facing room with white tile. Same color, completely different rooms. This is why understanding your home matters more than following a current trend. When someone calls me and says that they want their home to feel warmer, more inviting, more personal, I don't start with color. I start with their light, their materials, their lifestyle, their history inside the space. And when I find the color that already belongs there, the one that the room has been asking for, this is what a well-chosen color does. It doesn't announce itself. It makes everything else feels like it always meant to be there. The shift is happening in interior design right now, and it's not about specific color that's being chosen, it's about what people are choosing them from. For years, color has been chosen to appeal to buyers, to feel safe, to feel unoffensive. What I'm seeing now, and what I believe, is a return to choosing a color on a personal level, how it makes you feel, how it makes you breathe when you walk through a door, and how it holds you at the end of a long day. This is what color is for. Not for a resale value, not for an approval of an internet. Your home should feel like yours from the moment you step inside of it. If this video gave you something to think about, I'd love for you to follow. We talk about psychology of design, the emotional experience of beautiful spaces, and the small decisions that change how a home feels to live in on every single day basis. Now, in my next video, I'm going to talk about something that has nothing to do with color or furniture, but completely changes everything. So if you ever painted your walls and wondered why your room still feels off and don't fully feel like it's yours, you are not alone. And I'll see you in the next video.